Every 4 years, the world stops. For 90 minutes, nothing else matters. Most finals crown a champion. Some create legends, but only a few change history forever. This is their story. Some teams are remembered for winning, others for being impossible to beat. In 1954, Hungary wasn't just the best team in the world. They made great teams look ordinary. For 4 years, nobody could stop them. Even England couldn't stand in their way. Scoring became second nature to them. They arrived at the World Cup looking unbeatable. Their final opponent? West Germany, a team almost everyone expected to lose. But football has one rule: the favorite doesn't always become the champion. Earlier in the tournament, Hungary had crushed West Germany 8-3. The final was expected to be no different, and it started exactly that way. After just 6 minutes, Ferenc Puskás opened the scoring. 2 minutes later, Zoltán Csibor made it 2. 8 minutes, 2 goals. To everyone watching, the final already seemed over. But football had other plans. Then, everything changed. Max Morlock pulled one back. Minutes later, Helmut Rahn struck again. 8 minutes, 2 goals, gone. The greatest team in the world had been dragged into a real fight. And with every passing minute, belief began to grow. Not in Hungary, but in West Germany. With 6 minutes remaining, Helmut Rahn gave West Germany the lead. Hungary refused to give up. With only minutes remaining, Ferenc Puskás found the net. For a brief moment, the dream was alive again. But then, the assistant referee raised his flag. Offside. The goal wouldn't stand. Seconds later, the final whistle echoed across Bern. West Germany were world champions, and the greatest Hungarian team in history was denied football immortality. The match would forever be remembered as the Miracle of Bern. It wasn't just an upset. It proved that no team, no matter how dominant, was unbeatable. More than 70 years later, the 1954 final still reminds us that football's greatest stories are written by the impossible. 12 years later, another final would divide the football world forever. Did the ball cross the line? For decades, the football world has argued over one moment, one decision, one goal. To England, it was the goal that brought football home. To West Germany, it should never have counted. The answer still depends on who you ask. But one thing is certain: from that moment on, football was divided forever. Nobody expected West Germany to strike first. But after only 12 minutes, Helmut Haller stunned Wembley. England answered almost immediately. Geoff Hurst rose above everyone and powered his header into the net. Then Martin Peters gave England the lead. Wembley was ready to celebrate, but with only 1 minute remaining, Wolfgang Weber silenced the stadium. 90 minutes were not enough. For the first time in World Cup final history, the champion would be decided in extra time. Extra time changed everything. England kept pushing. Then came the moment. Geoff Hurst turned and fired. The ball crashed against the crossbar. It bounced down, then back into play. For a split second, nobody moved. Had it crossed the line? The referee looked at his assistant. The flag stayed down. Goal. The stadium erupted. A decision that football still debates today. West Germany pushed for one last chance. Instead, England struck again. Geoff Hurst raced clear. This time, there was no debate. His shot found the net. A hat-trick, the first ever in a World Cup final. England were world champions. The trophy came home. But one question never disappeared. The 1966 final became the most controversial World Cup final in history. One decision changed football forever. More than half a century later, the debate still lives on. Because sometimes, history is decided by a single moment. "4 years later, football gave the world its most beautiful final. Some champions win, others redefine the game. In 1970, Brazil wasn't just chasing another World Cup. They were playing football the world had never seen before. Every attack felt effortless, every pass perfectly timed. By the time they reached the final, many believed they were watching the greatest team ever assembled. Their final opponent, Italy, a nation built on defending, the perfect clash between beauty and discipline. This wasn't a team built around one superstar. Pelé, Jairzinho, Rivellino, Tostão. Every attack could come from anyone. And in the final, it didn't take long. Pelé rose above the Italian defense and headed Brazil in front. Italy answered through Roberto Bonansegna. For a moment, the final was alive again. But the equalizer only delayed the inevitable. Brazil never lost their rhythm. Every pass, every movement pulled Italy further apart. Then came the breakthrough. Gerson restored Brazil's lead. Moments later, Jairzinho struck again. 3 goals, 1 message. Football had found its masterpiece. Then, Brazil created history. Pass after pass, Italy could only watch. Pelé waited. One final touch, a perfect pass. Carlos Alberto arrived. Without breaking stride, he unleashed a thunderous strike. 4-1. The perfect team had scored the perfect goal. Brazil lifted their 3rd World Cup, and with it, the Jules Rimet Trophy became theirs forever. The 1970 final didn't just crown a champion. It gave football its greatest masterpiece. More than 50 years later, every great team is still compared to Brazil, because perfection is timeless. "16 years later, one man would carry an entire nation on his shoulders. Some finals are won by great teams, others by one extraordinary player. In 1986, Argentina arrived with one dream: to become world champions again. Their final opponent, West Germany, a team that never stopped fighting. But this final would belong to one man. That man was Diego Maradona. He didn't need to score. Every attack began with him. Every touch lifted Argentina's confidence. Then, José Luis Brown rose highest to head Argentina in front. Later, Jorge Valdano doubled the advantage. At 2-0, the trophy seemed within reach. But West Germany refused to surrender. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge pulled one back. Then, Rudi Völler struck again. 2-2. Argentina's dream was slipping away. The final had to be won all over again. Then, Diego Maradona saw it. One pass, perfectly weighted. Jorge Burruchaga was through. One touch, one finish. 3-2. Argentina were world champions. Maradona had carried his nation to the top of the world. The 1986 final didn't just crown Argentina, it crowned a legend. More than any goal, any trophy, or any record, this was the night Diego Maradona became immortal. "20 years later, another legend would leave the biggest stage in the most unforgettable way. Some legends leave the game with glory. Others leave the world speechless. In 2006, one of football's greatest players walked into his final match. One last chance, one last trophy, one last dance. But nobody could have imagined how it would end. That legend was Zinedine Zidane, playing the final match of his extraordinary career. And he began it in unforgettable fashion. A fearless Panenka over Gianluigi Buffon. France had the lead. Italy answered soon after. Marco Materazzi rose highest to level the score. The final was alive, and history was waiting. 90 minutes couldn't separate them. Extra time began. Every tackle, every pass, carried the weight of history. The world watched, waiting for one final moment. Nobody knew it wouldn't be a goal that everyone would remember. Then it happened. Zinedine Zidane headbutted Marco Materazzi. The referee reached for his pocket. Red card. Silence. The greatest player on the pitch walked away. Italy won the penalty shootout, but the image the world never forgot was Zidane's final walk. The 2006 final was supposed to celebrate a legend. Instead, it became football's most unforgettable farewell. More than any trophy or any medal, the world remembers one final walk, because sometimes one moment can define an entire legacy. 16 years later, another legend returned for one last chance. This time, history had a different ending. Some teams fight to become champions. Others fight to stay champions. In 2022, France arrived at the final as the defending champions. A team standing one win away from making history. Their final opponent, Argentina, a nation led by one of the greatest players of all time. But football had one final story waiting to be written. That man was Lionel Messi. The moment had finally arrived. He opened the scoring from the penalty spot. Then, Angel Di Maria finished a breathtaking team move, 2-0. Argentina were in control, and the dream felt closer than ever. Then, everything changed. Kylian Mbappe scored from the penalty spot. Less than 2 minutes later, he struck again. 2-2. The final had come back to life, and the greatest prize in football would have to wait. Extra time couldn't separate them. Lionel Messi thought he had won it. Moments later, Kylian Mbappe completed his hat-trick. 3-3. One final attack. One impossible save. Emiliano Martinez refused to let the dream die. The final went to penalties. 5 kicks, one last shot. When Gonzalo Montiel scored, 36 years of waiting came to an end. And at last, Lionel Messi completed his story. The 2022 final didn't just crown Argentina. It completed a story the football world had followed for nearly 2 decades. Some dreams take a lifetime, and this one was finally fulfilled. Some finals create champions. Some create legends, and a rare few become immortal. History never stops. It only waits for the next final.